Over the past several years, Intel has really dominated the CPU market. The i7-8700K with 4 cores and 8 threads has really been the CPU of choice for most enthusiasts. But AMD came out this year with their Ryzen lineup, and that pushed desktop CPUs up to 8 cores and 16 threads. It really kind of changed the game with its really strong performance. So now we're seeing 6-core, 6 or 12 thread CPUs from Intel, the i7-8700 and 8700K. So I figured it was time to do a build. I'm gonna do a mini ITX build with the 8700. As usual on this channel, keep it as small as possible. But this time we're gonna jam as much power into a nice case, the Phanteks Evolv Shift. Let's get started. For components, we have a nice selection here. Try to develop a pretty balanced system. So we have the 8700 for the processor. That's 6 cores, 12 threads, up to 4.3 gigahertz on all cores. So that's a nice little CPU there. 32 gigs of Corsair Vengeance LPX DDR3000 RAM, so that's nice and fast. Over for storage, we have a 960 EVO, that'll be the main boot drive, 256 gig, as well as a 500 gig 850 EVO, and there's a second 500 gig 850 EVO, so that's 2 terabytes of SSD storage outside of the main 256 gig. And we also have a 600p, another 256 gig there as well. So we're using the ASUS ROG Strix Z370i that has 2 M.2 ports on it, so that's really nice. So we can use both NVMe drives. One will be used as a boot drive for video, one will be used as a boot drive, one will be used for a scratch disk. So that's what I'm going to do with that. As for the power supply, we have the Corsair SF450 there. That's going to be a nice little power supply, plenty capable of rocking this system. And for cooling, we'll do the Corsair H55 Hydro series. That's going to be a nice liquid cooler that should have no problem cooling the 8700. Lastly, for GPU, we have the MSI GTX 1070 Aero ITX. I was going to go with the full-size GPU, but I'll show you why I didn't in a second. And lastly, we have one of the more unique mini ITX cases that I've ever seen, the Phanteks, the heavy boxed Phanteks Evolv Shift. So go ahead and get that unboxed. Let's get started on the build. So first thing up top, you get a nice color manual, so that's nice. Let's see what else is in here. This is a bit larger than I thought it would be, but looking nice and sleek and all black. So here we have the case with the side panels off. You can take all 4 off and it gives you access to everything, all the internals. It's really nice. Definitely going to make it a lot easier to install inside of. So around back, this is where the GPU will be. Your GPU bracket here. It can accommodate focal length cards, so that's really nice. I'm going to put a mini card in just so I can increase airflow as much as possible. So I use my mini 1070, and then I can have all this area here open. Then you have obviously your motherboard bay here. It's a little latch here that hides everything. Up top, you've got button power and the RGB LED control that has its own custom controller in there, so you can control it with the press of a button and make it like do all sorts of effects and cool stuff. Your cable to route the power supply cable, so that routes out the back there. So you see that little spot there. You've got caddies for your hard drives and routes for cables and stuff. So your cables will come out the top here. You can route them out of either a slot that's here or route them through this kind of bay here and out the back, well, on this side at least. So, and then there's your fan. You can do 120 or 140 millimeters. Radiator spot, one here, 140 or 120. And then on the bottom, there's another radiator spot, which can do 140 and 120. You can only do one 140 or you can do 2 120s. So that's how that works. So accessories, just case screws, feet for laying it horizontally, and some zip ties. So nice little stuff there. They really did a really good job. They include a nice color manual. I'm very excited to build in this case. Also, another thing you can see on the side here, the paneling, it all has where the glass meets the case, there's a foam padding there for dampening, and that's really nice. Keep vibrations down. So that should be cool. All right, let's get started. Now it's time to install the H55. It should give me some solid temps on this build, 120mm rad, so that's cool. I am going to make some slight changes. Instead of this crappy 120mm stock 3-pin fan that they've included, I'm going to use my Noctua 120mm slim PWM fan. I would use a full-size one, but this is the only one I have that is PWM at the moment. I'm using this because it's just flat out a better and quieter fan. So in order to make that fit, here are the mounting screws, and I just took these little pieces of Velcro and kind of made them into bumpers of sorts so that the same screws can be used, and I didn't have to go buy new ones because I didn't have any screws that actually fit with this slimmer fan. So that's that. Let's get it installed and see how everything goes. So here we have the final build with the CPU block installed. I went with the straight tubing because I thought it looked cooler. Let's hop around to the back. Oops. And you can see the GPU, the 1070 sitting here nicely, and the cabling. I will be cleaning up the cables a little bit, but most of them are actually hidden by the shroud, so you can't really see much. All right, so I have the system pretty much fully assembled at this point. Well, the internals actually. So you have your H55 cooler there. I mounted it straight on. I thought that looked pretty cool, as well as 32 gigs of RAM there, two 500 gig Samsung A50 EVOs, the 960 EVO, that's the boot drive around back. You can see I did clean up the cables a little bit as best as I could. I installed a 120mm Noctua slim fan there. You can't really see it. It's covered by the shroud, so the ugly brown color isn't really an issue. And then you see the wiring and the GPU there. You're supposed to have it facing inwards if you're using air cooling, so that's what I went with. And the SF450 PSU, taking a look at the front side, you see the PSU exhaust intake, and you have the nice Phanteks straps here to hold the cables down. And then around the other side, there's really nothing. I could put another 120mm rad here if I wanted to do a water-cooled, liquid-cooled GPU, but I'm not going to do that right now. I think for now, the air-cooled is fine, especially if the card that's this quiet. But there are some straps here. You can do, another hard drive or something, or some cable management. Let's take a look at the top. So, before we do that, you will notice that inside also, which wasn't there before, you'll see these white strips. So I have the Phanteks LED strip. Now they use their own kind of little proprietary connector which is a bit annoying, but you know, whatever. The strips are nice and they have magnets, so it secures onto the sides of the case really nicely, and it looks amazing when you turn it on, which obviously I'll show you in a second. But let's take a peek up top so you can get an idea of what it looks like. So at the top there you have the GPU and your motherboard I/O all nicely tucked in there. I haven't had any connectivity issues or anything like that I experienced yet, so far so good. Once you have the panels on, there are simple thumb screws in the top that you just screw them down with. All four have their own set of screws. Nice and easy. Once you have everything fully assembled, you can see how nice it looks with the glass panels on both sides and the aluminum here on front. Get a nice Phanteks logo down the bottom. And there actually is external I/O. On the back side, you see these two USB 3.0 ports there, so that's nice. You can route your cables either through this top portion here, this little hole, you can just have them at the back, or you can route them through that bottom and have everything come out the bottom with the power cord here, which is what you would probably want to do if you're setting the system upright. If you're going to lay it flat, which it can be laid flat, then obviously having both sections is totally fine. See around back, I mentioned earlier why, I would tell you why I went with the shorter GPU. So keeping with the mini GPU, it stops and gives you this whole section here for cooling. So I'm planning on upgrading this and having the GPU and CPU water cooled eventually when I upgrade to a 8700K. And that'll come in handy, not having the GPU run into this bay here. So I can have a res that goes horizontally there and 140 mil rad there, 140 millimeter thick rad. So hopefully it can cool both, and that should be cool. So we'll see. Up top, things get interesting. This is on a spring latch there. You can kind of see it just pops open. And then you have your LED control button and your power button. So there's no reset switch or anything, which a lot of cases don't have these days, but you do have built-in LED controls, and there's also an LED there that syncs up with the Phanteks RGB LED strips. So all your I/O faces upwards, which is nice. It almost gives it like a passive cooling system where all the heat kind of radiates up out of this nice little open fan grill here or vent grill there. And you can see your GPU obviously will exhaust up. There's mesh right here on the top side to catch a little dust. Really simple there. And you see your RGB connectors. So here I have my RGB strip with the magnets wired right directly into the case controller box there. You can do another strip. There's a second end here. So we could connect up to 2, I believe, and it'll control them both. But it's a really nice system. I think that was a really nice way to do it, and that latch mechanism works flawlessly and is nice and secure. The bottom of the case mimics the top. You see the same kind of pattern if you pop the feet off. That's so that if you lay it flat, it looks the same from both sides, and it looks really nice. You can see the fan sitting underneath there. There is a fan grill that is removable that you can slide on out that protects it, and these feet are also removable. You can slide them out, reposition them one leg over here so that they keep it from wobbling a little bit more. I found that this was plenty stable on the interior position. One of the best features of this case is that there are fan grills everywhere. There are fan grills in the side vents here on both front and back panels. There's fan grills on the top and on the bottom. There are fan grills everywhere. The bottom one is even removable. So, and actually these side little slot ones are removable as well. So it's very cool. They kept the dust in mind. If dust gets in here, you'll be able to see it. So that's a nice little feature to have. After finishing everything up, I'm really pleased with the way the system turned out. I think it looks awesome with the Phanteks LED strips integrated with the case. That's a very cool, very nice touch. Having a window case is nice too as well. You can see everything going on all the time. One thing to obviously take note of, you're gonna have a lot of fingerprints when you have that much glass everywhere, but overall, I really like the case as well. It's pretty easy to build into. Not as easy as a larger case, obviously, but you can build some really unique systems. I think the only thing I will do in the future when I can get my hands on an i7-8700K, I think I'm gonna do a custom loop and a graph that integrates the graphics card as well. So I'm thinking either doing a 140 millimeter thick rad in the bottom there, and maybe that can cool both depending on what I go with. We'll see what happens with time. I'm still kind of planning that out, waiting for 8700Ks to come back in stock. But I'll be doing benchmarks for this, so look in the next couple days. I'll shoot the benchmarks. Also, I will add them onto the article when I'm all done setting them up as well. So thanks for watching, guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below, obviously. I'm Jay. This is Tech Everything. I'll see you next time.